environment and the economy are two sides of the same coin. If we cannot sustain the environment, we cannot sustain ourselves. Wangari Maathai. Early one morning, Charu Chachi found Tara deep in her thoughts, looking through binoculars into the distance. Hey Tara, what are you up to so early in the morning?
I am looking at Polly riding piggyback on that yak. Polly seems to have made a new friend.
Just then, Yontan Mama comes along.
Yontan Mama, are those wild yaks?
Yes, they wander all over the mountains, nibbling on the ground vegetation. They will not stay in one place for long. This way, no one area will be completely barren of vegetation.
Even the wild animals know about sustainability and how not to destroy nature. I wish all humans would practice it to protect our environment.
I want to practice sustainability and nurture the environment.
Then, why don't you think of taking up a green career after your graduation? There are so many interesting jobs in green vocations.
I want to do just that. I am going to ask my friends to also take up green careers. We owe to this mother nature. Can you tell me about some green careers, Charu Chachi?
There is a long list of jobs that can be easily identified as green careers, but they should all focus on sustainability, renewability, and efficiency. Let us begin with wildlife conservationists.
Wildlife. That is so close to my heart. Polly, do you think I should become a wildlife conservationist?
Not only should you be passionate about wildlife, but you should think of ways to protect their habitats, whether grasslands or deserts or mountains like these or forests.
I am reminded of a book I read about Jane Goodall, who spent 60 years in the forest of Africa studying the chimpanzees and other wildlife. Her groundbreaking research enlightened the world about how close humans are to chimpanzees.
I must read this book.
Maybe you could think of becoming a marine wildlife conservationist. Our oceans form the major part of our planet, with so much of biodiversity which is yet to be discovered.
Then I would have to learn scuba diving. Maybe I will. But how will Polly come with me inside the oceans? Scuba diving is not for him. What do you say, Polly?
Whether on land or sea, a wildlife conservationist has to be a good public speaker too.
Sachi? Kyun?
You come across situations when you have to convince the public about the importance of wildlife. You may sometimes have to be a part of a campaign, not one to show agitation, but a peaceful, convincing campaign.
Yes, now that you mention it, I remember learning about how the people of Nagaland were convinced by members of Bombay Natural History Society not to kill the Amur Frankins when they stopped over Nagaland during their long migration from Siberia to Africa for resting and feeding. It had turned out to be a success story.
My friends and I too are campaigning for the beautiful deodar trees of our forest not to be cut. We go from village to village and to schools too, so that children can convince their parents. The cutting of more trees has led to so many landslides in recent times.
But why do they want to cut these beautiful trees?
To make their homes bigger. During winter, when it gets bitterly cold, the wooden floors and walls provide good insulation. Earlier, people used to make use of only dead trees. Now they are getting greedier.
Another job involving conservation is to breed in captivity any wild animal species that is in danger of extinction, and later, when the numbers have revived, to release them in the wild.
They have a musk deer breeding center in Uttarakhand. The number of wild musk deer had come down a great deal because people were hunting for the musk from their glands, which fetched a high price.
Even vultures are being bred in captivity in Pinjore. Environmentalists were very concerned when they were driven to the brink of extinction. Vultures clean the environment of dead rotting bodies.
I remember learning about this too. This was because of the drug diclofenac, which farmers used to give their cattle when they were sick. When the cattle died, the vultures would consume them and the diclofenac would pass into their bodies, affecting them adversely.
Another green career is in the field of a researcher, either as a botanist or ornithologist, zoologist or entomologist or herpetologist or even marine biologist. The researcher has to look up old records of a particular species being studied, find out if it has evolved over the years, study the environment most suitable to the species, and also the impact of degradation of its habitat.
But that would involve more of indoor work than outdoor, isn't it? Polly, you wouldn't like that, would you?
Another very interesting green job and also a need of the hour is that of an agro-scientist.
What does an agro-scientist have to do?
They too have to carry out research but in the field. They have to find out ways of improving crop yield, the best technology to develop methods of intelligent farming so that too much water is not consumed and chemical fertilizers and pesticides are avoided.
I am wondering whether being an agro-scientist working in the fields is more helpful to the planet or working in a forest is. What do you say, Polly?
Yontan, I have been observing your wife working in the gardens around the hotel. She seems to be an expert horticulturist. She has different beds of medicinal plants, neatly labeled, vegetables and fruits too.
And what an attractive flower bed too. They draw so many pollinators, butterflies, bees and beetles.
My wife has not actually studied horticulture. She has acquired all this skill through experience, and she does it because she has a great love for gardening.
The gardens are Polly's favorite haunt. He loves to inspect flowers, especially. Thank goodness, he has not helped himself to any of the vegetables or fruits.
Tara, you could also become a teacher like Chachi ji was and teach green subjects like nature, wildlife and environment.
I would love to do that. I would get the children involved in many activities that make them aware of the environment. Just like my Meena teacher does. How to recycle, make interesting articles out of waste, teach them about wildlife, take them for field trips, make them grow fruits, vegetables and trees.
All your students are sure to turn out into environmentalists themselves.
But along with teaching, I would also want to do another green job that involves being outdoors, being in the wild.
If not a green teacher, being a nature writer or even a nature film producer, especially for children who are our green ambassadors for the near future, is also a green vocation. Through your writing or through your films, you can transform and sensitize many minds.
Bilkul! My Masterji always says the pen is mightier than the sword. कलम तलवार से अधिक शक्तिशाली होती है. Maybe I can start writing even now. I can write for a school magazine and also for children's magazines.
Wah, Tara, wah. You speak so wisely. Even Polly seems to think so. I will be happy to circulate what you write amongst the guests in my hotel and even to the schools around you.
Thank you, Yontan Mama, for your support. This morning, I saw a notice in the reception of your hotel mentioning a number of very interesting events for the tourists. A nature trail, an expedition to view the snow leopard, a wildlife photography expedition, and so many such interesting activities.
That is a part of my ecotourism project. We also have eminent guest speakers coming and talking about our planet and about how we could protect the environment.
I saw that you have a composting pit and even a wastewater treatment plant. In fact, Yontan, I am so happy to see your efforts of ecotourism. Yours is 100% green hotel. You should name it as La Shangri-La Ecotel.
Ecotourism reminds me of another form of tourism, agri-tourism. My friend Kunti had been to one such agri-tourism farm with her Dadaji and her dog Chotu. The farm invited guests to experience first-hand life at a farm, which worked strictly on the principles of sustainability and environmental friendly ways.
That sounds interesting. What were the environment friendly ways they used? Maybe I can also have an agri-tourism farm here in the mountains, just next to my hotel. So my guests can have a choice of where they would like to stay.
They had a poultry farm where the hens were allowed to roam freely. The guests were allowed to feed the hens. They had a goshala with several cows. The guests could milk the cows if they wanted to. They could also help in the kitchen gardening and help in a number of other activities.
People from busy cities love to visit these agri-tourism farms as it is a refreshing change from their busy lives. Besides, there they learn how to connect with nature.
I am sure Polly would love it there. Won't you, Polly?
Ah, and these agri-tourism farms need to ensure that their animals are in good health. For that, they need to be connected with veterinary doctors.
Now I am in a quandary as to which green career I should take up. The job of a veterinary doctor also seems very interesting.
A veterinary doctor is always in touch with animals, not only domestic ones such as on a farm or pets, but also wild animals. Even the forest animals need their help at times to treat injured or sick animals.
What about green careers in a city, Charu Chachi?
I was coming to that. In the cities, more and more of the high-rise buildings are being designed by green architects.
How do the green architects design the buildings?
They use materials that could be non-toxic and renewable and ensure the buildings allow plenty of natural light and circulation of air within.
So that way they use less electricity.
Bilkul sahi. Also, they use solar energy and rainwater harvesting to ensure there is no harmful impact to the environment.
Green architects are just like the termites who build their homes that are well air conditioned without using electricity, and they use mud which can easily be recycled to the nature.
You are so right, Tara.
Charu Chachi, we earlier spoke about ecotourism. Are there other forms of tourism too?
Oh yes, there are various reasons for tourism. Educational tourism has become very popular nowadays. Many schools and colleges now take their students to various places for educational purposes. It is a great learning and eye-opening for them. The culture of a new place, the language, the natural topography.
Our school too takes us for educational tours, but only to nearby places.
Cultural tourism has also become very popular nowadays.
Sachi?
The local people in different parts of the country get to earn by exhibiting the typical culture of the place and also get to sell their traditional handmade wares. Foreigners love to imbibe the traditions and culture of India. Yontan, you have advertised expeditions in your hotel to sight the snow leopard. It is actually a form of adventure tourism, which many young people are crazy about.
Yes, the mountains and rivers offer a lot of scope for all kind of adventure. Skiing in Jammu and Kashmir, whitewater rafting Uttaranchal, mountain climbing and trekking in Ladakh and Sikkim.
Indeed, all these forms of tourism are a great way of adding to the livelihood of the local people.
But the people who enjoy these forms of tourism should make conscious efforts not to harm the environment.
Bilkul sahi. All these forms of tourism have emerged as a small effort to make people realize their responsibility towards nature. Nature-based, ecologically sustainable travel in India is a new concept. It simply talks about how one should be responsible while traveling and take care of the ecosystem we are a part of.
Also, where there is ecotourism, there are no poachers, and the local people protect the natural habitat rather than destroy it for using the land for grazing or agriculture. What's more, ecotourism provides a livelihood to so many local people.
Ha, Polly, you were listening to the conservation all the while. So, you too agree with what Charu Chachi said.
Many national parks have a nature education or nature interpretation center in their buffer zone. They have interesting exhibits to enlighten people about natural history and nature conservation. Their expert volunteers also conduct nature trails and nature camps regularly for children and adults. In fact, I had attended one such green teachers training program long back.
No wonder you know so much about natural history and nature conservation.
In fact, these programs have helped so many children decide which green careers they would like to take up. Maybe you too would like to join one of these summer camps, Tara?
Oh yes, please tell Ma about this. I would love to join a summer camp in one of these nature education centers. Yes, Polly, I will take you along too. All the other children will enjoy your company.
Charu Chachi's talk about green careers so enlivened Tara with so many interesting options to choose from. She just couldn't wait to grow up and launch into one of these green careers. Here is a song she composed at the end of the day before going to bed.
I want to protect all nature, take up a green career. Should I be a vet, conservationist, or maybe a green teacher? What should I take up? My mind I need to make up. The future holds many careers. What will be, will be. What about being a green architect or a pure environmentalist, microbiologist, ornithologist, or maybe a beekeeper? What should I take up? My mind I need to make up. The future holds many careers. What will be, will be.